You are currently living your life as a minor character in everyone else's movie, but you've completely forgotten that you are the director of your own. Think about that for a second. We are a species obsessed with a phantom audience. We spend thousands of dollars on clothes we find uncomfortable, sacrifice countless hours of precious sleep, overthinking a 3-second interaction, and burn through heaps of mental energy trying to curate a vibe for people we don't even actually like. We have turned our internal peace into a commodity that we trade away for a like, a nod of approval, or the absence of a frown. We are effectively handing the remote control of our happiness to strangers and then wondering why the channel keeps changing. But what if you could take that control back? What if the opinions of the crowd felt as distant and irrelevant as the weather on a planet you'll never visit? Today we aren't just talking about confidence. That's a temporary emotion. We're going deeper. We're using 2,000-year-old Stoic logic to dismantle the social cage you've built around yourself. From the streets of ancient Rome to the digital noise of today, the principles remain the same. This is the masterclass on reclaiming your headspace, refining your focus, and becoming truly, fundamentally unshakable. It's time to stop performing and start existing. The weight you feel on your shoulders isn't just the stress of your job or the demands of your schedule. It is the invisible, suffocating pressure of 1,000 imagined eyes. We live in a self-constructed panopticon, a prison where we believe we're being watched at every moment, and as a result, we police our own behavior to ensure we never step out of line. This is the social cage, and it is built from the bars of our own assumptions. At the heart of our anxiety lies a psychological phenomenon known as the spotlight effect. We are, by biological design, the protagonists of our own stories. From the moment you wake up, your consciousness is the center of the universe. Because of this egocentric bias, we naturally assume that everyone else is focusing on us with the same intensity that we focus on ourselves. Think about the last time you made a minor mistake. Perhaps you had a small coffee stain on your shirt, or you stumbled over a single word during a presentation. To you, that stain felt like a glowing neon sign. That stumble felt like a thunderclap in a silent room. But here is the cold, liberating truth. Nobody is looking. They aren't judging your stain or your stutter because they are too busy worrying about their own stains and their own stutters. Social psychologists have proven this repeatedly through cringe experiments, like having students wear an embarrassing t-shirt into a room. The students consistently overestimate how many people notice the shirt by more than double. We are all so consumed by our own internal monologues that we barely have the bandwidth to notice the footnotes in anyone else's. By obsessing over what they think, you are essentially reacting to a ghost, a force that doesn't actually exist in the way you imagine. Because we believe the spotlight is on us, we begin to perform. We engage in a daily transaction that is, quite frankly, a financial disaster for the soul. We trade our authenticity for approval. We think of approval as a safety net, but in reality it is a volatile currency. It's like trading gold for a speculative meme coin that could crash to zero because of a single misunderstood comment or a shift in cultural trends. When your self-worth is tied to the validation of others, you're effectively a beggar. You're standing with your hands out hoping the world will drop a well done or a you look great into your cup. The danger here is that approval is conditional. It devalues the moment you do something wrong, the moment you speak a truth that is unpopular, wear something that isn't on trend, or fail to meet an unspoken expectation. If your foundation is built on the shifting sands of public opinion, you will never be stable. You will spend your entire life vibrating with anxiety, waiting for the next market crash of your reputation. You become a hollow shell, a composite of what you think other people want to see, until eventually there is no you left inside. You aren't living, you're just managing a brand. This isn't a modern struggle, it's a fundamental human defect. 2 millennia ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world at the time, sat in his tent and wrote a thought in his private journal that still stings with accuracy today. He wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Think about the sheer absurdity of that irony. You know yourself better than anyone else ever could. You know your secret intentions, your silent struggles, your small triumphs, and the private battles you've won when no one was watching. You are the only person who has been there for every single second of your life. And yet, when a stranger on the internet, a judgmental relative, or a coworker who doesn't even know your middle name casts a dismissive glance your way, you let their ignorant opinion outweigh your own intimate knowledge. You let a person who has spent 5 minutes thinking about you overrule the person who has lived your entire life. We treat our own self-assessment like it's worthless, and treat the crowd's assessment like it's gospel. We give the bystander more power than the player. This is the glitch in the human psyche that the Stoics sought to patch. We are terrified of being judged by people who are themselves terrified of being judged. It is a loop of collective madness. We are looking for direction from people who are just as lost as we are. To break out of the social cage, you must first recognize that the bars are made of nothing but your own misplaced value. You have been giving your power away to people who don't even have the capacity to hold it. It's time to stop asking for permission to be who you already are. To dismantle the social cage, you don't need more confidence or a louder personality. Confidence is a feeling, and feelings are as fickle as the weather. What you need is a sharper logic. The Stoics didn't believe in positive thinking. They believed in accurate thinking. They built a toolkit designed to act as a psychological immune system. If you apply these 3 tools, the opinions of others won't just stop hurting, they will stop being relevant. This is the foundational pillar of Stoic philosophy. Epictetus, a man born into slavery who eventually became one of the most influential teachers in the Roman Empire, began his Enchiridion with a simple, brutal distinction. Some things are in our control and others not. In the context of your social life, you must draw a line in the sand. On one side of the line, you have internal variables, your intentions, your choice of words, your personal values, and the effort you put into being a decent human being. On the other side, you have external variables, how people interpret your words, whether they find you attractive, what they say about you when you leave the room, and their final judgment of your character. The Stoic realization is this: if you tie your well-being to things on the external side of that line, you are a victim by choice. You're handing your peace of mind to a stranger and saying, "Here, feel free to break this if you're having a bad day." Epictetus taught that worrying about things you cannot control is a form of self-imposed slavery. Why? Because you are working for a master who is never satisfied and over whom you have no influence. If you act with integrity and someone still thinks you're a fool, that is a them problem, not a you problem. Your only job is to ensure your side of the line is clean. If you did your best, you've already won. The outcome, the social score, is just noise. We often view criticism as a window, a clear pane of glass through which someone else sees our flaws. But the Stoics viewed judgment as a mirror. When someone looks at you and judges you harshly, they aren't describing you. They are narrating their own internal biases, their upbringing, their current mood, and their deepest insecurities. If a man who is terrified of being seen as weak mocks you for showing vulnerability, he isn't revealing a flaw in your character. He is revealing the walls of his own prison. Think of it this way. People see you through a filtered lens. Some lenses are coloured by jealousy, some by ignorance, and some by a desperate need to feel superior. If a colourblind person tells you that a clear blue sky is actually a dull grey, you don't get angry at the sky, and you certainly don't start believing the sky has changed. You recognise a limitation in their vision. When you realise that someone's opinion of you is 90% about them and only 10% about you, the sting disappears. You stop being a target and start being an observer. You realise that when people lash out or judge, they are simply projecting their own internal storms onto the nearest available surface. Why would you let someone else's distorted lens define your reality? We spend our lives running away from the worst-case social scenario. We are terrified of being the person who got rejected, the person who said the wrong thing, or the person everyone is laughing at. This fear keeps us small. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. They didn't run from the fear. They sat down and had tea with it. I want you to take a moment to imagine the thing you fear most in a social setting. Imagine you walk into a room, you make a joke that falls completely flat, and the entire room falls into an awkward, judgmental silence. Or imagine you post your most honest work online, and the comments are filled with nothing but ridicule and hate. Now, look closer at that disaster. Are you still breathing? Yes. Are your legs still holding you up? Yes. Is your character, your ability to be kind, to learn, and to try again, actually damaged? No. By visualizing the social death we fear so much, we realize it has no teeth. It is a paper tiger. We fear it because it is an unknown, but once you stare it in the face, you realize it's just a momentary discomfort. Once you realize you can survive being disliked, that the sky doesn't fall and your heart doesn't stop, you gain a superpower, the freedom to be yourself without needing anyone's permission. You become the only person in the room who isn't performing for a ghost. This is the turning point. This is the moment where the philosophy stops being a set of notes in your head and starts being a fire in your blood. We have deconstructed the anxiety, we've analysed the ego, and we've looked at the ancient tools. But now, we need to address the so what. Why does any of this matter? Because you are currently dying a slow death by 1,000 opinions. You're suffocating under the weight of people who aren't even thinking about you. And the so what is the sharpest blade the Stoics ever handed us. It is the realization that the entire social game we play, the posture, the status seeking, the desperate need to be seen as enough, is a colossal, tragic comedy. Here is the revelation that changes everything. The cage door has been unlocked this entire time. We spend our lives acting as if we are standing on a stage in front of a panel of elite, high-level judges, a jury that is perfectly composed, deeply insightful, and waiting to pass a final verdict on our worth. But when you finally stop performing and look into the audience, you see the truth. You aren't being judged by a jury, you're being watched by other nervous prisoners. The people you are trying to impress are currently in their own cars, staring at their own reflections in the rearview mirror, wondering if you notice the same insecurities they're trying to hide. They aren't thinking about your awkward comment from 10 minutes ago. They're replaying their own awkward comment from 3 years ago. The moment you realize that most people are too busy worrying about what you think of them to actually judge you, the social cage doesn't just open, it vanishes. It was an illusion sustained by your own vanity. We think we're important enough for people to spend their limited mental energy hating us. We aren't. And in that unimportance is the ultimate freedom. If the world is too distracted to care, you're finally free to be exactly who you are. Now let's talk about the power move. When people hear about Stoicism, they often think it means becoming a lone wolf, someone cold, mean, or robotic. That is a misunderstanding. The goal isn't to be a jerk. The goal is to be indifferent. In Stoic terms, this is called apatheia, not apathy in the sense of laziness, but freedom from irrational passions. Most people's self-worth is like a leaf in the wind. When someone praises them, they puff up. Their ego expands, their mood soars, and they feel on top of the world. But here is the trap. If you allow a stranger's praise to give you wings, you're giving them the power to clip those wings whenever they choose. If you are addicted to the high of being liked, you will inevitably be devastated by the low of being disliked. The true power move, the ultimate Stoic flex, is to treat praise and criticism with the exact same level of polite, calm indifference. When someone tells you that you're a genius, you say, "Thank you," and you move on without letting it touch your core. When someone tells you that you're a failure, you say, "That's their opinion," and you move on without letting it touch your core. You become a mountain. The weather changes. There are sunny days of praise and stormy days of criticism, but the mountain doesn't move. The mountain doesn't become more mountain when the sun shines, and it doesn't become less mountain when it rains. This is where you take back the remote control. You realize that your value is an internal constant, not a social variable. When you stop caring what people think, you don't become less human, you become more human. You become the person who can speak the truth when everyone else is lying to fit in. You become the person who can take risks when everyone else is paralyzed by the fear of looking stupid. You become the person who actually listens to people, because you're no longer using the conversation as a way to audition for their approval. The so what is your liberation. If they laugh, so what? If they leave, so what? If they misunderstand you, so what? Your character is intact. Your side of the line is clean. You have stopped being a character in their movie, a character that they will inevitably forget as soon as the credits roll. You have stepped back into the director's chair of your own life. You're no longer waiting for the world to tell you that you are allowed to exist. You have realized that the only person who ever had to give that permission was you, and you finally said, yes. We have traveled from the suffocating walls of the social cage to the expansive freedom of the Stoic mind. To wrap this masterclass together, we must return to the center of the circle, your own character. Let's recap the journey. Identify what is in your control. You must draw that line in the sand every single morning. Your character, your intentions, and your actions are yours. The noise, the whispers, and the opinions of the crowd belong to the world. Do not confuse the two. Understand the mirror reality. Judgment is rarely a report on your flaws, it is a confession of the judge's own boundaries. When someone projects their insecurity or anger onto you, see it for what it is, a reflection of their internal weather, not your value. Or accept the cost of authenticity. You cannot be all things to all people and remain yourself. To be liked by everyone is to be so thin, so translucent, and so agreeable that you eventually cease to exist. Rejection is simply the price of having a soul. As you move back into the world, carry this truth with you. True freedom isn't the absence of judgment. It's the realization that judgment has no power over your internal worth. The world will always have an opinion. People will always have something to say. But their words are just vibrations in the air. They only have the power you give them. You are the sole arbiter of your own life. In the grand theatre of existence, the only standing ovation that matters is the one you give yourself when you look in the mirror and know you lived with. I'm leaving you with a Stoic challenge for the next 24 hours, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is the sound of the cage door opening. I want you to do one thing today that feels cringe or weird, but is authentically you. Maybe it's wearing that bold outfit, eating alone at a restaurant, or speaking up with a raw, unpolished idea. Do it, and here is the key. Don't explain it. Don't apologize for it. Just exist in that space and notice that the world doesn't end. If you're ready to stop being a character in everyone else's movie, drop a hook in the comments. It's a signal that you are choosing to be your own anchor from now on. Subscribe if you're ready to master your mind, not your reputation. See you in the next one.